have you ever wanted to go to a universe? A fictional universe. Now, I'm sure you've heard this one many times before, whether it's Gotham City, Hogwarts, or some other third thing. A fictional universe of a franchise that you love so much. But what if you had to choose a fictional universe? If you had to stay between two fictional universes to live in forever, which one of these two would be best possible place to live? I'm referring to two of the most iconic fictional cities, the great city under the sea, Bikini Bottom, and the best radioactive town in America, Springfield. Welcome everyone to another episode of Olympic Fiction, a series where we take fictional characters, or places in this case, and put them against each other to see who is the best of the best. So, if you're new to the series, that is actually okay, because we have never done this before. If you've seen the past episodes in this series, you know that usually we take two different fictional characters and put them in Olympic or somewhat Olympic events to see who is the best of the best. I know this episode is a little different, but trust me, this might be our most complex episode yet. But since this episode is so complex, I had to make up a whole entirely different rule set just for this episode. Since we are comparing entire cities, I've made several different categories that represent certain aspects of these cities, and we're going to use these categories to compare both these cities to see which one of these two cities is truly the most absolute, without a doubt, definitively best fictional city ever. And if that sounds wrong to you, don't think about it too hard. Every word I say is fact, and I am a totally trustworthy man-child. So, in case you haven't noticed, this is a long video, so we're just going to jump into things. First category, climate. So, for a lot of these categories, we're going to have to go over all the weird and crazy stuff that happens in these cities. And we are definitely going to go over some weird and crazy stuff. But for this first category, it's actually pretty tame. Yeah, both these cities have pretty normal weather. I mean, yeah, some bad weather comes around every now and again, but that's kind of it. The only thing that's somewhat worth mentioning is Springfield does occasionally have acid rain, which is something that Bikini Bottom doesn't have, because water. Yet again, they do have rain, though, so that's kind of weird now that I think of it. But the point is, this category goes to Bikini Bottom. Next category, buildings. So, yeah. This is kind of another laid-back category, with both these cities having pretty normal buildings. Nothing too notable, like at all. I suppose I could mention that Bikini Bottom's buildings are not actually buildings. I mean, for crying out loud, the main character's house is a pineapple. And because of this, most of the buildings you see in Bikini Bottom are pretty unstable, especially for a city that is known to be pretty crazy sometimes with citizens and all the traffic and the occasional apocalypse. And often the buildings get demolished, not just by devastating disasters like most buildings. Usually it's just people or the main characters that just knock over buildings out of anger, or just a simple car crash that knocks over a dozen buildings like dominoes. It's happened so many times, you would honestly think the buildings in Bikini Bottom are made out of cardboard, as compared to the buildings in Springfield, which are just normal buildings. Not great buildings, but they're not cardboard buildings. So, I'm going to give this category to Springfield. Next category, roads. So, if you know Springfield pretty well, this category is kind of obvious. The roads in Springfield are really crappy, and that is a very well-known fact. And the reason for this is just for having so many potholes not normal potholes. These potholes are the size of cars and trucks. And compared that to the roads in Bikini Bottom, which are just normal roads, yeah, this one goes to Bikini Bottom pretty easily. Next category, transportation. Now, both these cities have pretty normal transportation, and yes, I am aware Bikini Bottom doesn't technically have any cars, but they do have boats, which to them are the equivalent of cars, and from what I can tell, they function and act and are probably just as safe as cars, so I'm not gonna hinder them for that. As far as I know, there's no big problems there. And same thing with their buses being submarines. It all works just like it does for any other normal city with traffic, nothing too notable. And both Bikini Bottom and Springfield, of course, have cars, taxis, buses, airports, but only Springfield has trains. As far as I know, Bikini Bottom has never had any train transportation, which, admittedly, is a small advantage for Springfield, but trains can be a pretty big part of cities, so I'll give this category to Springfield. Plus, this may just be me, but I always thought Bikini Bottom's bus driver was kind of a prick. But moving on. Next category, electricity. Okay, this one's complicated. See, I've looked pretty in depth into both of these cities, trying to figure out how they function, how they work, and I think I did a pretty alright job. But I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what powers Bikini Bottom, or even what it generally could be. I generally could not find anything on what powers Bikini Bottom. Now, as for Springfield, I'm pretty sure you all know Springfield's power comes from their power plant. Everyone knows this, which you'd think would give Springfield the win. But if you've seen The Simpsons and know the Springfield power plant, you know it is very toxic to literally everything, and might actually cause more problems than it does actually help the city. Why, yes, we technically don't know what powers Bikini Bottom, but we do know that it doesn't hurt or damage or contaminate Bikini Bottom. So yeah, this category goes to Bikini Bottom. Next category, food. Okay, so yeah, this one's obvious. I know some of the categories we've gone over have been pretty debatable or hard to guess, more or less, but this one is just a stomp. And if you've seen a speck of SpongeBob media, then you know exactly what I'm referring to. The most iconic fictional food ever made, the Krabby Patty. I don't need to explain why literally every fish in Bikini Bottom, and the sea for that matter, eats, loves, and would die for a Krabby Patty. Literally, some fish have literally died for a Krabby Patty. It's just that good. Yeah, I'm sorry, but there's honestly no need to go over any restaurant in Springfield, not even Lord Lad, or any other foods that Springfield has in this category. This category goes straight to the Krusty Krab and to Bikini Bottom. Next category, environment. Now, both these cities have pretty unique environments, with Bikini Bottom having Goo Lagoon, Sand Mountain, and of course, jellyfish fields. And for Springfield, big mountains, hills, and gorges, which is a little simple and basic, but it's also safe, so bonus points. And admittedly, I was thinking Bikini Bottom had more dangerous environments with Goo Lagoon and jellyfish fields at first. Then I remembered about the extreme toxicity of Springfield, which definitely affects the environment, whether it's mutated fish in lakes or people visiting Springfield heavily advised to wear hazmat suits. Look close enough and you'll see some sort of contaminated toxic mess inside and outside of Springfield. It's that bad. And it's also another win for Bikini Bottom. Next category, wealth. Money and all that. Now, admittedly, I honestly have, again, no idea what Bikini Bottom's wealth or economy looks like whatsoever. I know there's rich fish, there are poor fish, mostly just average wealthy fish. Granted, most of the main characters are underpaid. And then there's Patrick, who honestly might just be homeless. But the point is, the economy in Bikini Bottom seems fine. But then we have Springfield, which, unfortunately, we do know Springfield's economy. And it's really, really bad. It is literally a well-known fact how poor Springfield is. And yes, we don't technically know Bikini Bottom's economy, but just take one look at Bikini Bottom and their economy may not be great or amazing, but it clearly isn't dying. So this category goes to Bikini Bottom. Next category, water. And I'm just gonna skim over this one since we've already went over Bikini Bottom and Springfield's food and the environment and how toxic it all is. And also, it is a little weird to talk about how good and clean Bikini Bottom's water is, since they're underwater. But somehow, the people in Bikini Bottom are still seen drinking water, so I'm just going to assume they have clean, drinkable water besides the water they live in. Yeah, Bikini Bottom takes this category. Moving on. Next category, we have population, which might be our most objective winner in all of these categories, since we actually know the number of people who live in both Bikini Bottom and Springfield. Well, maybe just Springfield. The number of people that live in Springfield has been estimated to about 60,000 civilians. And then we have Bikini Bottom, which population is a lot harder to decide since different episodes imply different amounts of populations. There is one episode that blatantly states the population of Bikini Bottom, which is 538, but since that number is so unrealistically small, I generally highly doubt that's the accurate number of Bikini Bottom citizens. But there are a few more episodes that do imply Bikini Bottom's population. And there have been multiple different estimates of Bikini Bottom's population that go from 50,000 to even millions. Now, since all these estimates are pretty equally valid, since we really just don't know what the exact number is, but I'm going to go with 50,000 only because it seems to be in the middle ground when it comes to most estimates to Bikini Bottom's population. And since that number is technically lower than Springfield, I'm going to be giving Springfield the win in this category. Next category, hospital. Okay, now I know that I've been saying a lot of bad things to certain parts of Springfield, and most of them are right. But one thing I will say, Bikini Bottom has some of the worst hospitals ever. Mainly because they have some really bad doctors. Not all the doctors are terrible. Some doctors are actually pretty good at their job. But the ones that are bad are really, really bad. You can find episodes where doctors are throwing patients down halls, onto sidewalks, and even throw patients down roads, which is so blatantly, abysmally terrible for a doctor. Now, admittedly, all this does just take place in one episode of SpongeBob, but it is a very bad showing of Bikini Bottom's hospitals and doctors. And as far as I know, Springfield's hospitals haven't ever done anything near this level of terrible patient treatment. So I'm gonna have to give this category to Springfield. Next category, recycling. And just when Springfield had the lead. Okay, so yeah, if you've seen Simpsons, you've probably seen the reoccurring joke about how Springfield hates recycling. And I do mean hate, not just they don't recycle, straight up, they hate recycling. And then there's Bikini Bottom, which is the complete opposite. Not only do they encourage recycling, they even have very harsh punishments for littering. All it takes is just a little bit of littering and boom, jail time. Which is a bit much, admittedly, but it is technically morally correct. And with Springfield showing such abysmal respect for recycling, I'm gonna have to give this one to Bikini Bottom. Our next two categories are education and fire department. And if you're wondering why we're going over both these categories, it's because they're both a tie. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I generally couldn't find anything on Springfield or Bikini Bottom's fire departments that put one ahead of the other. And yes, they do have fire departments, but they're such normal fire departments. Nothing bad about them, nothing great about them, just normal fire departments. And because of that, they're practically identical, at least when it comes to quality. And the same goes for schools. I checked pretty thoroughly in my research, but I just couldn't find anything on fire departments or schools when it comes to both Bikini Bottom and Springfield. Although I won't deny, I might have missed something, so feel free to comment about it in the comments if you like. So, yeah, these two categories are a tie. Next category, police. Now, I'm sure you've all noticed that a lot of these categories have one of these cities being absolutely terrible, while the other one is either great or just normal. And of course, depending on which category, it changes between Bikini Bottom and Springfield. But for this category, they're both terrible. Yeah, both Bikini Bottom and Springfield are almost well known for having terrible police officers. Springfield's officers are lazy, under-equipped, and just bad at their job, plain and simple. And as for Bikini Bottom, their officers are just downright unprofessional, messing and teasing with citizens, arresting the wrong person, and not to mention the one time they arrested SpongeBob just because he didn't invite them to a house party. Yeah, both Bikini Bottom and Springfield's police departments are terrible. And I was thinking of making this a third tie, but then I thought about the problem that Springfield and Bikini Bottom's officers have. And with Springfield's police, a lot of their issues are because of the people in charge who are just terrible or stupid or terribly stupid. Sure, Bikini Bottom's officers could do better at their jobs, but at least they actually can do their jobs. Most of the time. So I'm going to give this category to Bikini Bottom. And now we have our last category, civilians. Basically the enjoyment of the people who live in these cities. And for Springfield, it's pretty well known that life kind of sucks. Yes, there are some people who are able to find joy in their lives in this interesting city, but most are just miserable. I mean, heck, the main character has a hard time finding joy in life. Then you have Bikini Bottom, which is a lot more confusing. The people who live in Bikini Bottom are somewhat diverse in their sanity. Some people are pretty normal, while others are completely insane. They can be dangerous, destructive. I mean, most of the many apocalypses that have happened in Bikini Bottom have happened because of the people in Bikini Bottom. And of course, there's also just the apocalypses that just happen in Bikini Bottom, which are mostly because of the people who live in Bikini Bottom. Like the one time a butterfly came to Bikini Bottom and everyone panicked and destroyed the entire city, or the time all the civilians moved the entire Bikini Bottom city to try to escape from a giant bullworm, only to get destroyed because of that very decision. And even the time the entire city went into apocalypse mode in probably the fastest time on record, all because they ran out of Krabby Patties. It can be insane to live in Bikini Bottom. Apocalypses, disasters happening so commonly, and just psychopathic people that live there. It's a weird and unique place, but despite all of it, despite all the danger, despite all the craziness, despite everything in Bikini Bottom, the people are happy. Just really happy. Okay, maybe not SpongeBob happy, but yeah, despite everything that happens in this crazy underwater city, most of the people who live in Bikini Bottom are just pretty happy, everyday people. They sing, they dance, they celebrate, they have joy, which compared to Springfield is really nice, actually. I'll be honest here for a second. I know in reality it would probably suck to actually live in either of these cities, but seeing the people who live in these cities, in these horrible, terrifying, mind-boggling cities, seeing all the people who live in these cities finding happiness and laughter and joy despite of all the insanity, it's really nice to see that. But if I had to advise some absolutely crazy nutjob sociopath that still somehow wants to live in one of these two cities, then I truly believe that the best city in this debate and in all of fiction is Bikini Bottom.